Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is so good to see all of you on this just beautiful, beautiful fall day and a great day, All Saints Sunday at St. John's Cathedral. I'm glad you're all here. We're with our friends and parishioners, China and Seth Kent. I'll introduce them in just a moment, but a warm welcome as well to everyone who's joining us via live stream. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Oh God, we thank you for this day, everyone gathered here at these tables, for China and Seth, and above all for their music, and the ability for music of all types and forms, in church, outside of church, to lift us to your presence and to remind us of the source of the deeper beauty in life, which is always your presence. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. So this is great fun. So come over here, Seth and China. This is so much fun to have a shift. For those of you who've been in the Dean's Forum for 5 weeks, here's what we've been doing, Seth and China. We did 3 weeks with a theologian and historian on the Nicene Creed. We did 2 weeks with an ethicist with a PhD from Notre Dame, from the Air Force Academy. And we're in the mood for some music.
I don't know why we're following all that, but okay.
So here's just a little bit of insight into my mind. Here's what I was thinking. We are just flooded with words. Are you getting all these texts, about the election? They send texts to my daughter Adeline, getting her to vote in certain ways, but for some reason they have my cell phone number, and it's just. And she's 24, so they really want her vote, right? Everybody does. So we're just flooded with words. We're flooded with thoughts. Many of us, especially who are more vulnerable, are flooded with fears right now too. So they're all of that. And what I was thinking about last spring was the ability for music to help us to feel and not only think. And then I really started thinking about the two of you, and then I really started thinking about that it would be fun to put together a series with folk or Americana music, and we'll see if you two agree with that designation or not. Spirituals, we have a great guest next week who's the head of the Spirituals Project. And then 2 weeks from now, we're going to have a gentleman named Pernell Steen, who's a great jazz musician and a great personality who will be with us. And so I'm so glad you're here. What we're going to do with all of you is they're going to play 4 songs. Interspersed throughout the songs, I'll ask some questions here or there. Enrique's changing the mood for us. And I almost feel like saying drinks will be served, and it's going to be a transformation in here.
We're going to make some quick changes to our set list.
Yeah, appetizers are coming. Well, I'll ask some questions throughout the music, and we'll see how much time we've got at the very end for questions from the crowd. But first, here's what I read on your website. You have a great website, allright2.com. Here's how you describe yourselves. Do you remember this? A duo adding new life and complexity to the concept of a family band. I guess I should say you're married. Okay, I don't know that everybody knows this. Yeah, to each other. You create an orchestral folk for the open-minded and poetry for the brokenhearted. Though their songs often bear a deep sense of tradition, All Right, aren't afraid to experiment with boundaries, testing the limits of genre and expectations for content. And that's where I want to start. How would you categorize, what is your music? Stylistically, and I know you're fluid and move in and out of different genres, but how do you describe your music?
Well, I'm classically trained. I'm a classically trained pianist, and Seth learned to play the guitar on a beach in Hawaii. So we had to find some sort of middle ground, and I think and the reason I'm doing this is because I fell in love with Nanci Griffith when I was in my early 20s, and Emmylou Harris, all those, and Joan Baez. So, I mean, I literally in my 20s used to like cry because I didn't have a voice like Joan Baez, you know? So I think I just always wanted to make folk music. I mean, it's like unfortunate that I play the piano. I wish I played the guitar. That's how I used to feel. I don't feel that way anymore. But so we make Americana, which is kind of like.
Okay, good. So you do like the term.
Yeah, I do like the term because it really, what does it mean? It doesn't mean much, you know, like.
It's a useful playground. It's like a rough guideline.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I used to say we're in the playground of folk music, but we're over there on the edges.
That's amazing. So, before we talk more about you two and then hear from you, what are you listening to these days? What other musician are you playing and listening to that you each find inspiring?
Well, I discovered Anna Tivell, my dear friend. Do you guys know Anna Tivell? She's coming. She's going to play in Boulder in like 2 weeks, not even. So I discovered Anna Tivell through a dear friend of mine, Spencer LaJoy, who is also an amazing musician, folk artist that we produced one of their albums for. So I love Anna Tivell, and we're listening to Waxahachie. Do y'all listen to Waxahachie? Oh my God, love Waxahachie. I love Southern rock too. I mean, also, we have a 17, almost 18-year-old son, so we listen to a lot of what he's listening to.
Yeah, he listens to two distinct realms. One is country, and the other is we listen to a lot of hip hop, like, and I mean really rap, like not just hip hop. I mean it's like rap. And then I, when I'm like driving in the car, I'm listening to a lot of 90s rock right now because I'm feeling nostalgic, I guess. I mean, like, just like, I'm listening to like the C-list 90s rock too. Like, it's not Pearl Jam. We're talking about like Candlebox and Silverchair and all that.
Do you want to ask the preacher what he's listening to these days?
Preacher. Oh, preacher man, what is it thou art listening to?
You know, I'll give you two very different examples. I love, and we've not talked about this, I love this dude, Sturgill Simpson.
Oh, you love Sturgill, yeah.
Does anybody listen to him? And he's just changed his name to Johnny Blue Skies. Yeah. There's a whole story behind it, and it's kind of awkward, too. So he's, and my daughter just went to the concert in Nashville. I think he's really amazing. And then I love and just find so comforting lately Ben Harper. Do you listen to this? Oh.
Yeah, I love Ben Harper.
Yeah.
Speaking of 90s, yeah.
Yeah, he's done some recent, some recent folk music that's really good and some other things. All right, so do you want to, you're about to play Missouri Calling. Do you want to talk about the song before you play or after you play?
Yeah,
Before.
We'll
So tell us about the influences. WHI had something to do with this?
So I used to volunteer with WHI, not in any way to the extent that many of you have, but we would like make dinner and serve the ladies dinner, and I spent the night a couple times with them. I know, love those times. And I felt compelled to write a song from the perspective of a woman who found herself on the streets. And I referenced directly several different stories that I heard throughout all those times that so this is not just one woman's story, there's actually many. It's like a tapestry woven into this song. And then, as we all experienced, the events of 2020 and the corners and the streets that became whole encampments. And my son, actually both of our kids were at St. Elizabeth's at the time, and Fender was in 8th grade. And
an Episcopal school.
Yes.
There are two Episcopal schools in Denver,
Right.
St. Anne's and St. Elizabeth's.
St. Elizabeth's is the one that's the social justice mission one. And so they had a social justice class, and his 8th grade class helped us make the music video for it. So if you get on YouTube, on our channel, you can see the whole thing is just filmed on my iPhone. And then their class helped me put it all together, and they did all the research for it.
Great.
So this is Missouri Calling.
Trouble got me down in the city. Everything feels off like a rain delay. Streets are hard when I wake up. My bones stiff and surly. Last night's good time evaporates. My head's full of fog and fury, and I never thought I'd end up so lonely. No, I never thought I'd be so sorry. Mama walked in, so she threw me out. Said you never raised no whore, you're just like them. You think you're so clever. I couldn't wait to get out. Mountains of bud and the money. I took a deep, deep breath. 'Cause Denver was supposed to be sunny, and I never thought I'd end up so lonely. No, I never thought I'd be so sorry. Left my home like a Huck Finn, shook it off like a wet retriever, drove 70 straight west, gave it my all, but it took the rest. Yeah, gave it my all, and I never thought I'd end up so lonely. No, I never thought I'd be so sorry. Song of the wood thrush in my mind, visions of newness, a new day, cobwebs of the night before there, shimmering in wonder. Green, green softness, the sound of the whippoorwill, lying on my back in the darkness. I hear Missouri calling, and I never thought I'd end up so lonely. No, I never thought I'd be so sorry. No, I never thought I'd end up so lonely. No, I never thought you would. I'd be so sorry. Ooh, 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 ooh,
Oh, this is great. This is exactly what I was hoping for, China. China, we love your voice so much. It's just so rich. Will you share some on your writing process and how do you two collaborate?
Okay, so I've been writing like a house on fire lately. It's like I say it's like the office hours just opened and all the songs have lined up, like students, you know, just like getting them. It's kind of awesome. So right now, that's how I'm, and the way that I do it, I have, you know, your voice memos on your phone, and I'll just be like washing dishes or driving some kid around or doing, you know, whatever, and a little like snippet or something will come to me, and I'll sing it into my voice, you know, memo thing, and keep going with my day. It's like you got to catch it while it's there, because if you don't and you think you're going to remember it, you're not going to remember it. It's just not going to happen. You know how this is, right? It's like a snowflake on your tongue. It's like it's never, you know, you're not going to remember it later. So you get it in the moment. And then lately, I've been trying for this for my whole life, to have some sort of like a practice, like a writing practice. And I always thought it needed to look a certain way or be a certain thing, and it doesn't. Writing is writing is writing is writing is writing. And so I just sit in a chair with the kids in the morning doing their thing, and the dog and everyone, and I'm just like listening through my voice memos and seeing what calls to me. And then lately, I just have been finishing a song, which never usually happens. But when we write together, it's different. We kind of, here, you want to talk to that?
When we write together, one, takes a lot of vulnerability, because it has to be okay for the other one to be like, that's not good. You know, and for the receiver, really, to be like, yeah, you're right. But I think, like, there's a lot of back and forth for us when we're writing together. We'll sort of, one of us will be toying with something and then sort of be like, okay, I think I got this as far as I can in this moment. Here, you take some of it. There's a lot of whiteboard stuff involved. We've used Post-it notes and, you know, like, hey, this line from this verse fits better on this side, and things like that. Especially in the studio when you're like pre-producing, that's when it really gets down and dirty. And then every once in a while, a line ends up that you're rehearsing a song and one of you keeps saying, I really hate that line, but we don't change it.
Or, like, I remember one time, like, or sometimes a song seizes you and you're compelled to do it. And you remember that's how you wrote The Liar. And you're just like, don't talk to me. And it just kind of came out all at once. But usually it doesn't really happen, like, in the same room. One time, like, this one song we wrote when we were making curry that one time. But that was, like, the only time that it happened in the same, like, I, you know, did a line and then he did a line. Usually it's, like, very private, and then you share it with each other. Oh, yeah, you're right. Maybe 2 songs we did like that, yeah. Curry, no, not always curry.
Well, I want to shift just a little bit, and this is a fun question to ask the two of you as Episcopalians. So I want to think about the relationship in just a moment between music and divinity, music and God. Historically, I'll do this really quickly. Remember you remember Pythagoras, like 1700 years ago? Pythagoras thought that music revealed the numerical structure of the entire cosmos. Plato thought music was all right, but it worried him. He thought that it worried Plato because it was just so exuberant and feeling-oriented. So it made Plato a little nervous. For us as Episcopalians, I think we would say we can't imagine worshiping without music. I mean, it would be unfathomable. Whether psalmody or hymns or spirituals or at the cathedral, the organ music and the reverberation in the room. So for us as Episcopalians, music is just integral to our sense of worship and uplift and all of that. There's my favorite theologian's named David Brown, and he's done a lot of work on the relationship between religion and the arts. And he's got a great new book called The Extravagance of Music. And Brown loves all forms of music, from classical all the way through what you does. So he just does a survey of all forms of music. And he writes about it theologically, how the beauty and mystery of music lifts us into the divine presence. And here's the example he gives. Brown says that he recalls his excitement when I first heard Nick Cave's lecture on the love song and its defense of the power of the secular love song to carry us beyond into some inkling of transcendent love. And this was a point that was also made, Brown says, by Al Green. Where's Catherine? My wife just sat down, and I thought of our first dance at our wedding was Al Green, Let's Stay Together, and Al Green's a great Memphis preacher, too. So for Al Green, applause are absolutely appropriate. But Al Green embodies this as much as any musician ever. I mean, could do secular love songs and was preaching on Sunday morning. This is a big theme. Think about soul music. What about for the two of you? And I realize it's a big question. But how do you think about the relationship with your music and the divine?
I think I was raised, we both were raised very evangelical Christian, and very much in my upbringing there was a line where there's the secular music and then the sacred. And sacred is okay, and secular is not. But as I grew, even in my teenage years and growing up, I started to wonder how accurate that is and where that blur is. And I started getting into, I hope I can say this without embarrassment, I got really into U2. During like the Achtung Baby days, again, 90s, and that like, some of that music that I was listening to felt very spiritual, but also very clearly was not spiritual music. And that sort of started me on a journey of finding the sacred in, for lack of a better term, the mundane, in our everyday life. Like, I think there's a lot of beauty and sacred that we have opportunity to see and enjoy and revel in. And I think a lot of our writing is sort of in that realm of like, this is real life. Here, we will present to you some real life, whether we've made up the story or whether it's something we took from our own experience. And then finding like the beauty and the glory in that and illuminating that.
Wendell Berry, one of my favorite poets, says there are no unsacred places, there are only sacred places and desecrated places. And I think that about music, maybe. I don't know. I actually don't really have a lot of time for that anymore, like in terms of like what is sacred and what isn't, because I just follow like my intuition. But what I will say, for me growing up in a very chaotic family home and family of origin, music was the cosmos in the chaos, and music was my constant connection to something transcendent. And I have never lost that. I mean, I don't play classical music really anymore, but that is where I live when I'm at the piano, and I'm so thankful for that. So in a way, like it's almost like it's like a highway. It's like my highway to the divine. So that's kind of.
No, I love all of this, and I'll just a quick couple of responses. I mean, I love that there is no such a thing as sacred and secular. I think that's hugely important. To give a couple of examples, our psalm this morning, I forget the number, but I definitely remember the opening line, and it's "The earth is the Lord and all that is in it." I mean, the great biblical theme is the whole cosmos is God's, and God is even experienced in and through the whole. Deacon Sally Brown's to our left, and I've heard Sally have a few words to say when anybody talks about the sacred as being sort of locatable, if that's a word, because it ethically, I mean, why can't being at the St. Francis Apartments, why can't being out a world of service, wherever it is, a classroom, a neighborhood, a nonprofit, a business, it's all God's world, and when we think too linear, try to draw that boundary, it has harsh consequences. Speaking of another boundary that I think music pushes back on, and especially the two of you, is I think a part of the inhumane world we're living in is that it's so damn cerebral.
Yes.
And I think we're just so, and part of that's this political thing, like everything's got to get translated into a Republican or a moderate or a Democratic or a whatever. It's got to go there to make sense, and then the votes and all that stuff. And that's ridiculous for all the reasons. But I think we overthink stuff. I think we're terrified of our feelings. Doesn't music, isn't that what you're doing, is helping us to feel again?
Music is the form of feeling. I have been in this creative writing class for the last couple of weeks, and my teacher said, you know, the English language is so poverty-stricken when it comes to feeling words. Like we have a word for every kind of roof possible, you know? Every bone in our body, you know, teeny tiny little bones. Each one is a completely different name that means, and then we have one word for love. I love broccoli. Yep. I love my brother. I love my husband, you know? I love music, you know? Like, you love me like broccoli? Exactly, right? So I think music is the back door to the soul. I think it's the way that, and music is a way that we can experience community in the midst of all of the faction finding, I feel passionate about that.
My favorite teacher at Sewanee, an Episcopal liturgist and musician, he used to always say, "No one leaves church humming the sermon." and that's, you know, what you're saying. I mean, think about, for all of us, when you're moved in church, it's probably a hymn or music, probably. I mean, think about when you feel something like that. Okay, what's your next song?
Well, I wanted to say, so this next song is very appropriate that we're talking about this.
We're in a good space for it,
We're in a good space for it, but I will say that I wrote this song because I'm just kind of done with the patriarchal idea of God being a man. So, I did it for the first 48 years of my life, and I don't think I need to do it for the next 48 years of my life. So this song is it comes from a lot of different places. It comes from grief, it comes from loss, and resilience, and a place of resilience. And it is an imagination of a mother God. And it's called Champagne, and we filmed the music video in Dagwell Hall in 2020. Thank you.
And it's again beautiful.
It is.
It's the
best video we've ever made.
It's gorgeous, and the light. It's
oh my
gorgeous.
God, the streaming light, and Chandra Kuykendall, who was the prima ballerina for the Colorado Ballet for 17 years. She danced while she was like 5 months pregnant for this song. So also look that up as well. And this is called Champagne.
Give you everything I don't need. Maybe you could feed it to the apple seed. I'll give you all the babies that were taken from me. 2 of them are buried underneath that tree. Yeah, 2 of them are buried underneath that tree. Give me light or give me dark. In the shadow of your wings and your watermark. Give me a drought or give me rain. I'll find a way to still remain. Oh, I'll find a way to drink champagne. We moved to the south when I was 12. That's when I learned to say farewell. Sometimes a girl grows up too fast in that land of social castes. Oh, it gets hard to stay steadfast. Shattered mirror on the wall, chaos scene perpetual. Through my adolescent wars, you tamed the bull and the matador. Yeah, you saved the bull and the matador. They always try to tame my fire, try to cut me down like a telephone wire. Oh, nip me in the bud before I rose. Well, they didn't count on my tippy toes. Yeah, they didn't count on my tippy toes. So give me peace, so give me strife. Softest touch, a ridge of knife. Through the bliss and through the pain, I'll find a way to still remain. Yeah, I'll find a way to drink champagne. Mama, you've been standing tall. You take and you take and you take it all. You got all your children in your nest, and you never, 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 never rest. And you never, 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 never rest. So give me light or give me dark, in the shadow of your wings and your watermark. Give me drought or give me rain. Oh, I'ma find a way to drink champagne. Oh, I'll find a way to drink champagne. I'll find a way to drink champagne. We gonna find a way to drink champagne.
I do. So,
Thanks for having a real piano, by the way.
no, isn't that fun? Yeah, I'm just so envious of your voice. So there are two things I really want. I was telling Catherine this last night, actually. I really wish that I was fully gray-headed. Wait, and I really wish I had your smoky voice, because I feel like you people would listen to me better. So my question is, do I need to smoke more cigarettes? How do I get your voice? Come
You could
on.
go the Tom Waits route and just scream into pillows or something.
So that's funny you say that. Catherine, it drives her crazy. My best friend and I, since college, love Tom Waits. Catherine does not love Tom Waits.
It's all or nothing with Tom. There's no in between.
What's that, Tom Trabert Blues, that song? God, he's amazing. Okay, what I want to do, I want to think just a moment. I want to do one more philosophical question. So I want to think about the term resonance and the old word soul just really quickly. So instruments resonate, pianos, guitars. Buildings resonate, so the cathedral has great resonance. Music plays off the walls, and you get all that reverberation. That's resonance. There's emotional resonance that can be from music, but it also can be from facial expressions, feeling, sensing what someone else is feeling. And the question I want to ask is how music resonates with the soul. So just really quickly on soul, I love that word. I love soul music. Soul, one of my favorite definitions of soul comes from the last Archbishop of Canterbury. He says a soul is an unrepeatable perspective on things. An unrepeatable, isn't that lovely? There's something unrepeatable about us. And therein, when we lose someone, lies the grief. And therein lies, I think, the hope, because all souls come and return to God. And it's just such an amazing, that God is the soul maker. It's just amazing. But my question for the two of you, thinking more about the soul side of the equation than the music side of the equation, the fact that who I could never do what you do, but I can feel something as you play, says something about the fact that we can recognize what you're doing and feel it, even though we can't do it, says something about us on a deep level, doesn't it? Just as hearers, as listeners.
Yeah, I'm the audio nerd of the two of us, as far as, and that resonance thing. Like, there's a lot of research and study about, like, literally people are trying to find the frequency that is our core frequency. And some people are like, oh, it's actually A440, which is what we all tune to. It's not. Some people are like, it's A436. And I think it isn't. I think we did this really strange show out in the middle of the bush and when I say bush, I mean in Uganda. And we just happened to be there, and someone was like, "We really want you to play," and we were like, "We don't have anything." And this guy had this janky old piano, and we hauled it like across a dirt road over a hill, and set up and played a show, and it was like this front row was our audience, and we played, and we had this guitar that was a short scale guitar for traveling, and this piano that had no soundboard and no amplification. And after the show, one of the guys who was there, he's this big-time electronica music guy all over sort of Africa and Europe. And he came up afterward and he said, "What you did with silence." And I was like, I think that's all we have sometimes, is that silence, and that's the undefinable. That's the thing. If I can't say to any of you, like, here's this thing, I can sit, I can be. And I think that, even in music, in sound, it's the...
This is very shallow, what I'm about to say. But me and my friends, my musician friends, were like, maybe musicians look really young because we surround ourselves with the vibration. We're just like in this soup of good vibes all the time. And I think there's something to it. I think if we immerse ourselves in the music of the spheres, I mean, I'm actually, so Pythagoras and all that, I think that like our tonal scale, and it's a Western thing, so we are also talking sort of about Western music, but there is something to it. There's something to the vibrations that gets into us in a cellular level, I think. And I don't know how that communicates, but it does. It communicates, and it also heals, and I don't know.
What I'm about to say is in no way selfish. I've never looked better in my life than right now. So I think you're just being in your presence. I know, Catherine walked in too close up front. I'm distracted. So, yeah, I need to shift topics. So we've got spirituals next week. We got jazz with Purnell on the third week of the series. Music is often, music is a cultural reality and often a response to culture. One great example, and I'm sure we'll get into it next week, the spirituals were often slave songs, and that they sometimes read as sort of churchy and nice, but they had a subcurrent of resistance and some coded language. How do you think about either music more generally or your own is being a response to some of the things we're seeing in our culture and in our times?
Well, I think actually the American canon is gravely lacking in protest songs right now, at least in the popular canon, what we're hearing every day, kind of. And I don't know. So the song has functioned in many different ways. One is like instructional, like heads and shoulders, knees and toes. You learn your ABCs through a song. So there's an instructional capacity to song. There is and there is a social protest function to songs, and we haven't actually written a protest song yet. But I will also say though, that last song I just wrote, I kind of feel like that's a protest
In what
song.
way?
Imagining singing a song about I'm gonna find a way to drink champagne in the midst of all of this, in the midst of adversity, in the midst of being, having experienced, death and loss and all that stuff. So I mean, that's like a mini protest song, but it's not about a cultural something that's happened in the zeitgeist of the moment, right?
I think I agree that especially we folk artists tend to be a little too patient with our writing. We ruminate on things for way too long. Rap, hip hop,
Yes.
They're talking about
Sure.
something that happened last week, like, and it is very of the moment. And that's actually one of the things I really love and admire about that genre of music that you almost don't see in any other popular genre right now, where they are telling you about something, and it's probably encoded language, and that's why all of us are like, I don't get it. And then once you look it up, you're like, oh, that was, wow, brutal.
We forgot to tell you that we are listening to Run the Jewels. Do you listen to Run the Jewels?
No.
So good. Speaking of protest songs.
But also, I mean, China was saying earlier that she's been writing a lot, and I have not. And part of that, I will be totally honest, is a little bit of my own fear, because a lot of what I'm starting, all of my starts, I do the same thing she does. I do little notes, I make little recordings. A lot of it's really angry, and I don't like that part of myself. And so I'm like, is it time yet? Maybe it's time to get over ourselves and just say what needs to be said. I don't know. That's just me off the cuff right now. But
Is the anger in part related to what we're seeing politically?
largely.
Yeah.
Anger at a lot of people who look a lot like me.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't want to say much more because talking about stuff too much can kill it.
Mm. Tell us about it.
Not a. I don't know if that. I'm not. All right. How many of you have been here a while? In Denver. How many of you go skiing? Okay. How many of you remember a vehicle that was red and then turned yellow? It's actually a Camaro. It's on big old 44-inch tires, and it used to be sitting outside the trailer park on the north side of the road, on the north side of I-70. Yeah, I'm getting a giggle already. Out in Georgetown, and I would see that car every time I went up to go skiing, and I was like, oh. And then it disappeared, and there was an online freak out. People lost their minds, and I'd been toying with I'd been toying one thing with going and talking to whoever owned the car and saying, that should be mine. And then also like, who is this person? You know, who's that guy? And I wrote the song 3 times. The first song I wrote was way too silly, so I decided to like get it a little more serious. Second one was brutally tragic, and so that was immediately jettisoned. And then the third one, I think we struck a middle ground on it. So it's called Trans Am because it sings better than Camaro. And it's also a little funny that the protagonist can't tell the difference.
On our bikes back in junior high, muscle cars had passed us by. Wished I could have owned one then. You know I would be turning heads. We'd take it up to the overlook, steam the windows till the cops show up. Instead of feeling halfway dead, I'd be the king with a foot of lead. I wanna buy a Trans Am, the 4x4 with welded doors is parked above the Georgetown Dam. Man, let me buy a Trans Am. Seems like it runs, but it bakes in the sun, and it's just about as much as I can take. We drive it down to some fancy street and find a classy place to eat. Laugh at the valet climbing in. We leave the radio turned up to 10.
Up to 10.
Watch me drop the kids at school. All the friends will think it's super cool.
Super cool.
Headmaster will shake his head, but Dreamy owns it when he goes to bed. I wanna buy a Trans Am. The 4x4 with welded doors is parked above the Georgetown Dam. Man, let me buy a Trans Am. It breaks most of the rules of the HOA, whose fees I don't care to pay. Gotta find a way to make it work. We'll skip the braces for my kids like a jerk. We could probably sell our minivan or trade it to you with some cash in hand. 'Cause I wanna buy a Trans Am. The 4x4 with welded doors is parked above the Georgetown Dam. Man, let me buy a Trans Am. I've been cooped up inside since our triplets arrived, and I can barely remember my name. I'd haul it out into forgotten lands and shoot my guns at some Coors Light cans. Guess I'll have to park that dream out in the desert like a dried up stream.
Great. Where are you? I think Trans Am may have gotten the biggest response this morning. I know. We're not done yet.
Humor songs. That's another function of
No, I was sitting there thinking, not only is the inhumanity of our age, we're not thoughtful or as smart as we should be. We don't have spaces to have really thoughtful conversations. We don't feel enough. And we're even though we're not thoughtful, we're too damn serious.
Right.
And it's nice to hear the silly
Levity.
side, because it's a part of our humanity. You got what you...
I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It does still exist. It's now parked outside of the Exit 243 dispensary.
I will not ask who has seen it. A few of you raised your hands earlier.
The new owner let me drive it, so.
Oh, amazing.
I know, it was very fun.
All right, let's start to land the plane here before you do your last song. What, in this crazy world we're in a violent world and a fearful world, what's bringing you hope these days? And I don't mean that in an easy sort of way, but where do you find hope, and what helps you get out of the bed and keep writing that next song and love on your kids and keep going?
Well, for starts, we just moved. We used to live in North Denver. We now live out in Lakewood, and we found the Unicorn property, and it's 3 acres, and it has cottonwoods and willows and raccoons and skunks, which the dog and the skunk, that's not so hopeful, but
There's a song there.
there might be. Yeah, the dog comes home, she's like, I found the greatest thing, and we're like, we can tell. But that place,
Yeah.
that place gives me a lot of hope right now.
I was, we found ourselves able to do this thing, and then I immediately started a concert series, because when you have this much room and this much beauty, you want to share it. And I wanted to say that you are welcome to join us at our concert series.
Oh, great. How do we find
So
out?
I don't know how to get a hold of you. So if in the back I have we have our album for sale.
Great.
So and on that is a little pad of paper that Fender Kent, hi Fen, is and if you give us your name and your email, I will add you to our. I promise I make a no spam pledge. And I will only tell you about the All Right events that are happening, which happen to be a concert series. And so can I piggyback on that? Making that concert series happen has given me a lot of hope, because I've not interfaced with social media one time for it consciously in the last, or actually I've gotten off of social media entirely for the last year, and that gave me a lot of hope to get off of that. But I will say the other thing that is giving me a lot of hope is my son's and my daughter's generation of kids. We have now, yes.
I have watched these kids in some sticky situations, and they know how to take care of each other. They know how to make sure that they that everyone is doing what they should be doing, and they know how to. I mean, they are way more woke than we were. They know how to be in a situation and take care of the vulnerable people, and yeah.
And I mean, especially for Fender's specifically, Fender goes to East, and I don't know how much you know about East, but 2 years ago, they went through it. And those kids, like Fender and his friends, listen, they will take care of each other. And if you need backing, they'll take care of you. And that it's been really amazing to see that, and to see and witness, and also be able to just kind of be like, yeah, good job. Like,
How did this happen?
people are like, how are your kids like this? And we're like, they're just good at this. So
Tell us about this last song. Don't worry.
So, so this record, all the songs that we have played for you are on this record that we released in 2020, and it ended up being sort of a strangely prophetic record, because we wrote all the songs and finished production on March 3rd. Yeah, and so then everything happened, as you know, and one of the songs that I wrote was called "Don't Worry," and as everything went online, and we ended up doing all these online concerts and doing this whole thing, we ended every concert with this song, "Don't Worry," and we leave you with it today, with the week ahead of us, and that's all I'll say.
And I'll just say quickly, as you move to your instruments, let's end with this. So I'm going to do my concluding announcements now. When they finish the song, we can give them a great round of applause, and that'll be it. For those who've been joining us via the live stream, thanks so much for being here. The service of Holy Eucharist continues at the same place, sjcathedral.org, and begins at 10:30 a.m. And again, we'll give them a great round of applause at the end of this music. Hasn't this been fantastic?
Thank you so much. Monday, woke up late again, spilling coffee on the drive. Gray skies full of meanness make it hard to come alive. Anxiety like a hurricane, like an ambush in this heart. Exhale one more cigarette, find the fullness, then fall apart. In the middle of the night, in the middle of a dream, you came to me. I heard your voice as clear as can be. Stood right there beside my bed, took my hand and you held my head, whispered in my ear, don't worry, dear. You got that existential fear, but love is why you're here. Arms full of laundry on the second floor, crying in the bathroom with a locked door. Dust in the light like a whispered prayer. Someone bust the windows, I need some air. You got that existential fear, but love is why we're here.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.